Welcome back to Not a Strong Start, a podcast by filmmakers who talk movies, television, and write negative reviews on Yelp. I'm your host. How about no?
I am not your host. If you can stop that, that'll be great.
It's like
Your
such a
best
caring
Karen.
tone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm do less.
Say less.
Just
I'll do less.
do
It's the motto
less.
to my life.
Do.
That's how I live my life. Like if I could do something, if I could do a little less, I'm gonna do it. Especially if I get the same results. That's how we do it.
Mm.
But but in this episode, we're gonna talk about movie. I guess movies, TV show doesn't really matter, right? But just writing pet
Yeah,
peeves that we see in stories that we're like, okay, if you guys can do a little less, that'd be great. Or let us sit out on that one.
exactly.
Mhm.
Things that, in a way, they can be kind of like tropes. Things that
Mhm.
you're seeing repetitively in different movies or TV shows, where it tends to be like a trend of way that characters are written or scenes are written. That you're just like, why do you got to do that? Like, if you could stop that, that'll be great.
Mhm.
Especially when it starts with like the reason why it annoys me sometimes because it's like I'm very aware now that it's written. I'm
Mm.
now pulled from the movie. I'm pulled from the story, and it's like, okay, here we go. Now I can tell who wrote the script. Like now I can read it. I could see the script on screen sometimes, and that's when it's like, okay, if you guys can do that a little less, that'd be great.
Yeah, and then
Mhm.
that's the part. I think that's the part you're calling out very well is when it happens so much and it's something that already annoys you, it does one of the worst things that something can do within a movie, and that is pull you out of that immersiveness that you should be getting with a good quality movie. And it could be a good movie that does one of these things, and at least for that second, you're pulled out. Now you're seeing the writer right there writing this part, and it's like, why did you could have written that differently?
Yeah, seriously.
Your
All
your
right.
your answer, Jose, should just be Quentin Tarantino movies. That's what your answer is going to be because, like, I
Oh
can see
man.
him writing.
Hmm.
I see him right there, window
Yeah.
cracked open, uh, a black coffee espresso right next to him, just writing, giggling like, oh, that was great.
Jose's gonna love this one. But like
Uh,
you also have you get the same thing where like Aaron Sorkin. Aaron Sorkin's like very much like that. As much as he can sit there and write really good dialogue, you always know it's like what do they call it? There's like a term for like Sorkinism or something like that, where it's just
mhm,
like, when you see like the social network and it's just like, here we go. It's just a lot of people like it's sort of like what Dawson's Creek did. You know what I'm talking about? Like, oh, you have a bunch of high schoolers, but here they are talking like grown-ups. Like, nobody talks like that, especially like, you know what I mean? Like just regular high school kids. They're not even the smart kids either. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, come on. Dawson, he
it,
wasn't super smart.
yeah,
Stacy would not talk like that.
No.
yes,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. And like sometimes I think people think when I complain about like Tarantino's writing is to saying that it's bad dialogue and like dumb dialogue, and that's not it. He writes good dialogue, but it's that thing that creeps up in the back of my head that pulls me out of the movie, and I see him writing, and it's that exact comment that you said. I just keep saying in my head, nobody talks that way in this situation, no one is giving this 10-minute monologue talking in this way. And that's what pulls
About a
me out
foot
of a lot of,
massage.
of those movies. Yeah, and
Because
that's
I'm
what
the
it is.
foot fucking master. I know
Yeah.
what you're talking
It,
about.
it's not that the actual, like, what was written was bad. Like, it makes sense. It's good. But plugged into this scene in this moment, it takes me out of the immersion of it because it's like, again, nobody talks that way. That could be a whole one. That's the first one for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently, yeah. It's that or when you have certain directors like we'll use like a M. Night Shyamalan for and by the way, these aren't even on my list. We're just
No,
starting
mine neither.
we just
That was
opened
not
up the
on mine.
can of woods, man. These are actual ones because I felt like, that there's a lot more that are brewing in my head now. But like when M. Night Shyamalan was becoming so predictable with the twist ending, like I got it already. You know what I mean? Or when you get like the Jordan Peele, where even though he's only had a few movies, but it's like, oh, here we go again. It's kind of woke horror. It's like, just stop becoming a trope. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And you're gonna hate this, Jose. You're gonna hate this. But
Uh,
Christopher Nolan's a little bit like that too. he has a trope, and it's like, what else do you got? Tim
You
Burton
shut
does
your
that
mouth.
too. Tim Burton did that for the longest time until he did something like Big Fish. Where I was like, oh, you have range, rather than showing me here's the same, decrepit, like, morphed and animated world that we keep seeing. It's like, okay, but like, what else do you have? Like, let me see something else. It's when
Well,
people fall
Nolan's
into a
next one
trance.
will not be a sci-fi.
Good. It's
So
it's not
eat
even
your
the
face, Damon.
sci-fi. Eat it. No, it's not even the necessarily the sci-fi. It's like when you watch a Nolan movie, you could tell it's a Nolan movie. And I guess maybe that's if an artist paints, you can always tell the hand of an artist, I guess, to some extent, or maybe one that's very detailed. So I guess that's what it is with Nolan. But there's like I don't want this to be misconstrued, but there's like a dullness to Nolan movies. Not dullness where they're boring. I mean, there's like a dullness to the world. There's like a dullness to the undertone. When you see something like even his Batman trilogy, and I love his Dark Knight trilogy, there's a dullness to the world where it seems like people aren't happy. You don't see as much joyous, bubbly characters. It seems people are more subdued. It seems like everybody's on antidepressants. Like, that's what it feels like. Batman felt like he was on antidepressants. That was one of the most saddest, which I believed, but one of the most saddest Batman versions I've ever seen in any of the Batman
I
movies.
mean, he lost his parents. It's too soon, man.
I
It's-
was
He,
gonna say
but
that.
they need antidepressants. It's like they're acting like
yeah,
they need them. If they were on them, it'd be all fine. But
Yeah, but they're not.
no.
They can use some espressos.
I mean, I can see that, and maybe in the long term of it, Nolan's still kind of early in his career. Like, if you really
Oh,
look at
no.
it,
Hey, I had to swallow the Tarantino comment. Okay,
what?
you got to swallow this
oh,
one. You got to eat it in your
oh,
face.
you didn't let me finish. I'm a look. I see what you're saying, and I'm saying like I feel he's started because I feel like he still has a lot ahead of him. So there's still time to actually like change and kind of do kind of like a Spielberg where he's hitting different like aspects of it. But as of now, I can see that everything tonally tends to be very similar, very hopeless when it comes to his movies with these worlds. We haven't seen him dive into a territory where he's changing up his worlds the way it is. And, every artist, like you said, you're going to see the style the same, but the images can be different. No, if we're comparing it to a painting, Nolan has been doing, creepy trees for a long time. You know,
Bob
Creep-
Ross. He's been
yeah,
doing the
yeah,
Bob Ross trees.
yeah. He's been doing unhappy trees. He's been doing
Yeah,
unhappy
unhappy little
trees
trees. Unhappy
Yeah.
uh,
trees.
the whole time. They look magnificent. They've been great unhappy trees. But he hasn't drawn a fruit basket yet, or something like that.
Yes.
So need him to keep the tone, keep the style, but maybe shift to other images.
Add a little bit of comedy. Let's just see what a little bit of comedy does. Spielberg mixes his tone probably if we're considering like the greatest goats, the greatest directors of all time or the ones that are the most prolific, Spielberg's probably the most versatile because he's tackled like literally every single genre imaginable. Um, even Scorsese has touched on other ones where even when you watch some of his movies, it doesn't scream Scorsese. Like you can watch Hugo and it doesn't scream Scorsese. You know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah,
been able to touch it. Nolan hasn't quite done that yet. I
no,
want to see him do it because I think he has it in him. The dude's a phenomenal director. I'm totally agreement with you on that. I just want to see it. I want to see it.
yeah,
Yeah. Which
yeah.
is
No, I
crazy
agree with that.
because yeah, because Burton did it with Big Fish. That's why I love Big Fish so much because it was probably the most un-Burton like, even though you still saw shades of it in there. It was still very un-Burton like of him, and that's I think one of his most highest rated movies. Anyways, we're we're digressing here on this one.
Just nerded
Let's
out. We just blacked out and nerded
we
out.
just blacked out and started going into filmmaking talk. That's why we said this is a podcast by filmmakers. We veer out, okay? This is how our writing sessions go. Like this is what happens. We could be over there standing in line to order a sandwich, and then me and Jose already coming up with an idea about a time jumping storyline that we actually came up with. Remember that? Or we're waiting to order, and all of a sudden we came up with a whole three-act structure of a movie. Like, hey, stuff happens.
That's the way it goes.
That's the way it goes. But all right, let's get into some of our pet peeves, things that just irk us, things that make you say, I think I'm gonna turn this off. So Jose, start us
Mm.
off.
Okay, and here's something that I see in different genres of movie. I've seen it in horror, I've seen it in sci-fi, I've seen it in action. Uh, Actually, I'll even throw in rom-coms. Pretty much all the genres you've seen this thing. Characters not communicating or sharing important information for the sake
Miscommunication.
of for the sake of keeping characters oblivious or extending a story. There's so many times and it's really prolific when it comes to horror and sci-fi where characters won't just talk to each other like, hey, I just saw this back there. That did not seem right. But instead, they stay quiet. They don't say anything. And now, no characters don't have that information. So then they encounter something that if they had that piece of information, they could have handled that better. But now they're surprised because person A didn't communicate. And that happens a lot when realistically, especially in situations when there's people we're going to communicate things. If the information is important, for the most part, we'd be like, hey, I think you should, fair warning, you should know that back there, I saw some shit in there. No, but they're like, oh, no, no, let me not say nothing. I don't want to scare anyone. Scare people. They should
Yeah.
be scared if you
Yeah.
saw something. Like I know that example is just for horror, but I've seen it in all the other ones. That when characters are written to not realistically communicate information to each other, just because if they communicate, that would end that scene and that might close the story sooner. You're forcing an extension of the story and characters' obliviousness. You're forcing it in there by unrealistically making them not communicate information.
Jose, that is 85% of rom-coms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rom-coms is always it was misinterpreted what he said, even though his intentions were have been perfectly fine this entire movie. Somebody misheard something, or he said something, and she misinterpreted this, and now all of a sudden, like they're not going to end up. Now they're not the perfect couple, even though actions speak louder than words. It's that one word that somebody heard from something else, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's why with rom-coms I get so sometimes because there's so
Pretty
many
realistic
bad
though.
ones.
That's pretty
Is it?
realistic though, what
Yeah.
you just said. Sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree though, because I had the same thing. And especially with horror, like you say, it's like if you see if someone sees a ghost and like their partner's there or something, and it's like, oh, and they're like, what? Nothing. It's like, okay, like I hate that too. And then yeah, with rom-coms, especially with I've with series, just like prolong the drama between like a character like a Ross and a Rachel, and then it's like they'd have that miscommunication there, like Daniel said, but I find that specifically in like rom-com or like sitcoms they do that. Just like draw out the drama between a couple. And it's like, come on, just say words that you
Saved by the
mean or like you
Bell.
just communicate.
Yeah.
Say by
Saved
the
by the
bell.
Bell
They did
did
it
it a
too.
lot. Where I
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, okay, like,
Ah, it's
can somebody just listen
annoying.
to Zach? Can they just
Yeah.
listen to Zach and not just assume he's a butthead every time, even though he was a butthead most of the time?
Tell me if you've heard this one before. It's not what it looked like. Let me explain. And the person leaves and doesn't let them explain. And then all of a
Yes.
sudden, we've got this whole thing. It's like they could have easily ended this conflict in like 2 seconds. But like right now, I'm watching a TV show. It's a sci-fi horror TV show. It's on this third season called From.
Mm.
And
Mm.
right now we're on season three, where pretty much all of these characters have experienced some weird situations. Everyone knows that this is a weird place where weird things happen, and still people will have things happen to them and not share that information with everyone else. And this everyone already knows weird things happen, and every piece of information is important towards putting the whole puzzle together, and people still keep things to themselves. I like the show, but that's the most annoying part from it. And that's actually what stemmed this episode topic. As I was watching that, I'm like, talk to each other. And then we got this.
Especially if you see something paranormal, like that's not normal. Just say, "Oh shit, I just saw a fucking ghost."
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on. So we all
Say it.
react.
Say words. Yes. Good one.
Okay.
Oh,
That was on my list too. Okay. This is like, I guess, kind of touchy, but the thing that I hate the most, especially in comedies, I'm going to say this because my example is one show in particular that has happened to. And that's um pretty much pandering messaging, emotional, political type statements that they're putting in everything. And my example for this that really just, I was like, come on, no, stop. Like, just be funny is when Brooklyn Nine-Nine was on Fox and then it went to NBC. And the whole tone totally switched. And I stopped watching it because they were doing all this like messaging. I don't want to get flagged. And I was just like, enough. Like this was a funny show. You had something good, but and it's just like, do you think we're stupid? Like we know what you're doing. It's like the production companies or something, whatever, are trying to like fit this quota of okay, gotta make sure we have this kind of character, gotta make sure we do this. And it's so disingenuous. And I just find it like it's not meaningful. And it's like clearly just there to like check a box and it loses me every time. And like Disney shows, I'm like, enough. Like, stop. Not all girls are perfect fighters, and they're not all like just stop. Enough. Make them flawed. Make women make women bad again. Like, stop making them so perfect at everything. God, we suck. Like, show
Oh,
it.
so you're talking about the Mary Sue's is what you're talking about.
Well, I'm talking about Mary Sue's, but also
Okay.
other things that, I'm not really gonna say, because I probably
Okay.
shouldn't. But it's just like any sort of like political type agenda messaging that is literally in everything now. But it really bothers me when they do it in comedies, and I just use Star Wars as an example because they are like really heavy-handed with it.
Oh, with Acolyte? You talking
With
about that
everything
show?
now, but oh yeah, with Acolyte too, yeah.
Yeah. Because that show was very woke, I guess, right? Is the term that they keep using, this woke show essentially, is where they made the characters all these things just because. I think that's a big thing too, because when you, especially when you do that to comedies, it tends to kill comedy because we grew up in a part where true comedy was making fun of others. It was bullying. Like that's comedy, where it had like people had to be at the opposite end to get laughed at. That was comedy. We're now in a safe comedy now where it feels so like
And no one was
sanitary,
excluded.
sanitized.
No one was
Yeah,
excluded.
no one
Everyone
was
got hit
excluded.
with shots.
Everybody got it. Everybody got it. Like I was just laughing the other day where somebody quoted, have you seen my baseball exhibit from There's Something About Mary? But even in that case, especially that the Fairley Brothers do, is they don't make fun of people with disabilities. They use them as the humor to burn regular people, and it's like you're getting clowned on by this guy. Like that's what the Fairley Brothers did. We can't even do anything like that now. Like now the comedy is just, it needs to be sanitized. Everything's sanitized, everything comes prepackaged, and you can only say certain things, otherwise you're afraid of your career going down.
Yeah, no, that's a big one. I think that's a good choice there, and something that's very prominent now, like you guys said, more than it was in the past, where there's too many movies or TV shows where the entire time they're standing on a soapbox and they're just drilling a message over and over again, where the message, the soapbox shouting, uh, becomes more important than the actual story they're trying to tell, and more important than developing, you know, good three-dimensional like characters. They become very two-dimensional because of the message that they're trying to push so much.
Yeah. Okay. So here's one that really irks me, that really grinds my gears. Okay. It's when you have smart characters making dumb decisions or acting foolish. And this happens at end of the world movies. It happens in horror movies. It happens in thrillers. I'm so sick of, like, let's say the show Dexter, right? Or something like that. Like, when we're following a show, or like Breaking Bad, we're following a show of somebody that's just getting into the criminal underworld and they're our main character, but we have this very seasoned 30-year-old vet detective or cop that's in it, and this brand new person is just outsmarting them left and right. And it's just like, what the hell are we doing here? Or in horror movies, when you have the teenager, but then the cop is like doing some stupid decision to get themselves off. And then the teenager, that's the dumb teenager, the one that's failing grades, is like making smarter decisions. Like when doctors are making terrible decisions in movies or TV shows, it just irks me. These are supposed to be people that are the top of their field. They went through 8 years of college education plus pre-med and all this stuff, and they can't make a decision of not going towards that sound or knowing when to call people or how to communicate if the power lines go out. Like you're telling me they can't figure that out, but they know how to do surgery? Is that what you're telling me, Jose?
It's almost like they're telling you that horror movies also don't exist in that world. So like
Yes,
no one's
man.
like seeing these. Do they not exist in those worlds at all? But yeah, the dumb decision, and then like it's sad when you're watching something and you got a smart character and it pops in your head like, oh my God, this character's actually smart. You shouldn't be saying that. It should
Yeah.
be common enough that it doesn't stick out. And then I think worse than having a dumb character written in a movie is having a character that you write smart for part of the movie, and out of nowhere you lose their logic and their intelligence. That was one of the worst things in the movie Barbarian.
Thank you.
They started off writing a very smart protagonist character where you're there and you're like, okay, finally, logical protagonist. Halfway through the movie, it's like, I don't know if she ate some dumb berries, but all of a sudden, she wasn't smart anymore and she was making the same illogical choices that normal dumb characters do in horror movies. So it was like, I find that even worse than just having them be dumb from the beginning.
Mhm.
Yep.
And I
Yeah.
think that's why Scream was such a breath of fresh air because in this world, they actually reference horror movies. So it's like if you have these teenager characters, and it even goes when you have these other high school teenagers that are emulating stuff that they've seen in horror movies, then you would have to have horror movies that actually exist in this world. So the fact that you had, that character that knew about the horror movies, and in part two, where you talk about there's no good sequels and all this stuff, that's why Scream was so awesome to me because like finally we have characters that know their stuff. Like even if they're geeky and whatever, they know about horror movies and they know about certain beats and they're even calling out certain things like don't go towards that sound, and that's what they're doing. It's like it was such a breath of fresh air, and it
That's
seems
a good
easy,
one.
very easy. All right, next one.
Next one I have is another one that we see in multiple genres, uh, but I feel very prominent when it comes to action movies. It's the ignoring of danger or an immediate threat to have an interaction that can wait. So, like, the people are about to die, and you choose this is the time to have a conversation and catch up, or the time to have a makeout session and before the building's about to like blow up right now. Like, leave threats and then you can go have a session, or go talk about what happened in the past. Don't do it when the timer is down to 15 seconds because the building's gonna blow up. And I feel this gets used too many times. It's like, oh my god, we're about to die. Wait a second, pause. The, the, the threat is not gonna pause. Like, stop it. Stop writing characters to do that. Have them leave danger and then finish off that way.
Unless you didn't set your fantasy lineup, Jose, then you have to hurry up and
Yeah.
sit there. There's priorities to these things. Set your lineup
No,
first and then run
there's
out.
always exceptions. There's always exceptions.
Yeah, exactly.
Clear your browser history just in
Yeah.
case the bomb does go off.
I saw the meme of the gravity one where it says when you die, it's like that's your browser history. It's funny because even when you're mentioning that, I saw a commercial the other day about I think it's like an older one too, where you have like a pack of teenagers that are running and they're running away from like a serial killer, and then they're like as they're running, they're like, oh no, the car. They're like, oh no, we can't run in the car. It's like, why can't we run in the car? He's like, I don't know, but we shouldn't go over there. It's dangerous. Let's go run inside that shed with all those chainsaws. So then they go run and you see the guy just standing there. It's like,
That's the Geico commercial. Yeah.
yeah, the
When
Geico
she's crying,
commercial.
she's like, why do we
Yeah.
get in the running car? It's like, what are you, crazy? Just go to
Yeah.
the shed.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
but it's things like that we would always see happen. And like I understand sometimes we have to incorporate people panicking. And it's like, oh my God, I'm panicking. I'm stressed out on that. But like you also have people too that don't do that. Like not everybody panics like that and is fumbling over themselves and dropping keys. Like sometimes some of us stay under pressure very calmly.
This is one thing that makes me the most mad. I've seen several times Conjuring 3, Paranormal Activity,
Oh,
Ghost Dimension,
okay.
and it's when kids are in peril, possessed, hauntings, whatever. Oh, and The Exorcist Believer, and they leave their kids alone in their room, like upstairs, while the parents are like downstairs doing something else. It's like your child's possessed or haunted by a ghost every night, and you're just like, "Okay, good night." Close the door, turn off the light. Like there's no way that parent would be like this. Your kid's possessed, like an Exorcist Believer. The girl is possessed, and the whole family's on the main floor. Like, yeah, she's up there. She's not tied down. Nothing. She's just loose and possessed up in her room, and you're like, what are you doing? Like, why are you guys not protecting or being around your child?
They know she's
At least
lazy.
turn,
It's like
yeah,
she's lazy. She's not gonna get up and do anything.
She's
She's not
not
gonna
gonna
wash
get
the
up. That's
dishes. She's not gonna
It's
wash the
a lazy
dishes.
demon. It's all right.
Yeah.
yeah. At least if she's possessed, turn on the TV so she can entertain herself. If the kids are not possessed yet, at least throw in a knife so they can defend themselves.
There
Yeah,
you go.
something. But it's just like, yeah, here's if my kids were like a ghost was coming to them every night, I'd be like, you're sleeping with me, or like I'll sleep with you. You kind of protect your kid. Just throw them to the wolves at night. Bye.
But it's really like that. They'll be like the parents or whoever it is, like, okay, let's go step out the room and go have this conversation. It's like just have it inside the room, just right there.
Yeah,
Well, specifically Exorcist.
yeah. Keep an eye on her. Yeah.
And I feel like that goes with like a lot of times when some of these things are written, they don't realistically write the sense of urgency that comes with the situation. So, as a parent, there's the sense of urgency of protecting the kids. So that sense of urgency isn't there. Sometimes you see where someone's being attacked or they're being taken, and it takes so long for everyone else to react. They kind of just stand there, wait for the attack to conclude, and then they're like, "Are you okay?" Like, I could have been better if you jumped in and helped me a little bit ago.
Yeah.
Move, move. Now you want to
Yeah.
move. Yeah. All right. Here's one that I have. It's it seems like as we started getting shows like Breaking Bad or whatnot, it just seems like we have so many shows now where the main characters have like some kind of addiction, some kind of personality disorder. It's like when it has nothing to do with the storyline, they're giving somebody an addiction to like opium. They're opium addicted, but like they're like
Oh, yeah.
a kindergarten teacher. Not everybody needs to be Walter White. You know what I mean? Like it feels like every drama show that we're getting now of something the main character has something that they're battling just to give the actor more internal struggles that we have to see on camera, but it just seems so unnecessary. Like this is not important at all to the storyline. Not every story needs something. Sometimes just tell a compelling story. Very easy.
Feel like that was a trope on so many 80s and 90s sitcoms. You would always have the addicted to drug episode. You would always
Yes.
there's the addicted to drug episode and there's the
Say by the bell.
someone got shot episode. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel
Fresh
so
Prince Bel
I
Air.
feel so
Jesse Spano's addicted to caffeine pills. And it was just caffeine pills. You know what I'm saying?
so
Like when you look
excited.
back at it, it's like it's basically kids that just drink coffee. She was addicted to drinking coffee, essentially. What the hell are we doing here?
Yeah, and then Fresh Prince did it. Wasn't it Carlton? Didn't Carlton get addicted to something? It's like that was one of the tropes. There was the someone got shot or stabbed episode, and then there's the drug addicted episode. It's like every sitcom did that. That was the jumping the shark. That's the going to space when it comes to horror movies aspect.
It really was. It got
Uh,
tiring. It's just like enough already. You know what I'm saying? It's like I get it. It's following those same beats that we talk about where you could be watching something and then once it comes like, oh, here's that episode now. Here we go.
Hmm.
That's where they are in the cycle of the show.
all right, for the next one I have is when characters who are in immediate danger do not pick up and use the weapons around them. Seen this in horror movies, see this in action movies. It's especially in like action movies where you have the agent, the top, whoever it is, and is fighting other people that have weapons, and they take out one of them in there, and it was like grab their gun. It's on the floor. It's right in front of you. Pick it up. No, they just walk away and they don't like pick up their weapon. So first of all, you're eliminating your chance to protect yourself by not taking the gun. Two, if that person happens to not be dead, you left a weapon right by them. They can take you out in the back. So when if I'm in these scenarios, I'm loading up whatever I can. I'm like, do I need seven assault rifles? No, but I'd rather have them than the enemy have them in there. So you see that in horror and action where there's weapons, there's things that can defend themselves, and they run right to them. In horror we see it sometimes when they do have the weapon, they attack. It's effective against it, and then they drop it, and then they run away without the actual weapon. Like it worked once, it can work again.
Especially
So
guns. They do that with
Yeah,
yeah,
guns. Like,
yeah.
how many more bullets in there? Now that he's not dead again, guess what? Now he has a gun. Like, gee,
that
so
that one
stupid.
Or
always gets me. That's one that I yell at the screen when I pick up the gun, grab it.
or when people I see this with uh maybe like final girl type things or like women especially where they shoot somebody like that's like been attacking them or chasing them the whole time and they shoot them and they're like and they drop the gun like what did I just do? I would be like good. I'd be like bang bang a billion times in the face until you're dead. Like seriously,
Shoot him in the
why is it
head.
like oh my God, I did it. No, I killed him. He's a bad dude. Like maybe he deserves to like own it.
And then once you run out of bullets, then you throw it at them
Yes.
with
Yes.
extra
The
damage.
butt of it to the skull. Like, come on, let's go. Okay, I'm just gonna lump these together because this is again very small, very personal to me, and I can't stand seeing it, and they're just things that make me like ick and they're so unrealistic. Number one, people kissing and making out the moment they wake up in the morning. Gross. Get out of here. I never want to see that again. It just grosses me out. Two, women waking up with perfect makeup on and fake eyelashes and everything. Just stop. Just make it real.
That's not
And
realistic.
the not if you're with me, it ain't. You're gonna wake up
What
to
if
an
it's
ogre.
Maybelline?
You said what?
What if it's Maybelline?
Yeah, Maybelline out here. If that ad taught me anything.
No, she's born with it, and what she's born with ain't that. So and the thing that really gets me a lot, and this is kind of like graphic, but I just have to say it because I just think it's so stupid every time I see it. When people have an amorous encounter and it's like spontaneous and it's like unprotected, and then they just get up and get dressed right after like it's nothing, especially women. They're just like, ah, oh, it was great. And they just get up, go on with their days. Like, no, there's stuff you got to do in between there. You don't just
Hmm.
like put your clothes on and go. Like, make it real. Every time I'm like, ugh,
That's
no,
why
that's
she's
not right.
nasty. That's how she got
After you,
UTIs.
yeah, after you
Yes,
cook, you gotta
go to
clean
the
the
back.
dishes.
No, you got to do the bathroom waddle. Like, come on.
That's
After
right,
you
Jose.
cook,
You
you got to
tell
do this. Yeah, so true.
him. Make me a sandwich. Okay.
I know it was gross, but I hate that. I hate that so much. Hate it.
Here's a quick one. So this is one that like I get it, but like it really annoys me when a project comes out that's a really smart idea or very clever original, and there's copycat projects that just come out immediately and immediately and immediately, and it's just like okay already, like you
Yeah.
just sap the energy. Like I get it, you don't have to have a bastard version of what we just saw. Like damn, happens
Almost
all the time.
immediately. We did a whole episode on this where it was like movies that came out within a year or months of each other. They were pretty much the same premise.
Same premise, and they're just trying to rush it out to say, "Oh, we got there first." I'm like, "Yeah, but your movie sucks." It's like, and it's got bad actors on it. Like, it's clearly a rush production. Like, just think of something else. There's other good ideas out there. You don't have to do that. Thank you for watching another episode of Not a Strong Start. Please like, subscribe, comment, share on YouTube channel, Not a Strong Start. You can listen to us anywhere, listen to your podcast. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter, Not a Strong Start. Hopefully, this podcast is not a pet peeve of yours. You can follow me at, wait, I'm your host. How about no? You can follow me at King_Sangre. I got so
I am
caught up in
not
my
your
joke, I fucked it up.
uh, I am not your host. If you can stop that, that would be great. You can find me at This Is Me Nombre on Instagram.
And I'm do less unless you cook, then make sure you do the dishes afterwards. In that case,
Yep.
please do more. And you can follow me at Replays It All.
And wear that Maybelline.
Yeah, never take it off.